Hmm, how do I share it? Hi, can you see me, Sahil? Sahil, can you see me? Good. Hi, Rishabh. Hi, Sahil. Sorry, I somehow messed up with the scheduling and the previous link just vanished. I just posted it on Twitter. Maybe if you guys can reshare it, it might reach some more people. Um, we'll wait for like 5 minutes, so if people can join. Yeah, I posted the new link. I mean, it's a new link. It's not the old link. So we'll wait for like 5 minutes if and give some time for people to join. Hi, Raki. Because I think for the old link, many people have subscribed for the old link, but they should be receiving notification, but it got messed up. So we'll give like 5 more minutes. Hey, Code Carly. I am not sure how it goes. I mean, if when we are done, if the video is not so cluttery, I may keep the recording available. Otherwise, I will not have the recording. So it depends because it's live coding. You never know, and if it's like so much of clutter, then probably it may not be nice for people to see it later. We'll wait for 2 more minutes and then we'll get it started. Hi Sagar. I'm not sure if I'll make a real life project and upload it to YouTube because if I make a real life project, probably I want that code to be secure. So probably I may not share it because I spent some time making a real life project. But can mimic a real life project in future, yes. So this is more like a trial. Today we'll not be dealing with databases, we will not create very complex APIs, but today we'll be learning how API works internally and We will be creating minimized version of our own Express.js. So that's today's plan. We will not. In fact, I'll show you how to use Express.js, but then for beginners. But we will create our own Express.js and understand how this entire API thing works under the hood. And if people really enjoy it, and if many people talk about it in Twitter and something, then I'll have more series where we will slowly increase the complexity and go deeper. So that's the plan. But let's see how many people like it and how many people use it, feel it's useful. Cool. Let's see how it goes. I mean, if it's very cluttery, I mean, um maybe I can, if it's very cluttery, I'll make it a private video and share the recording for people who attended personally. But if it's not cluttery, I'll make it public. Cool. I think enough time waited. I think many people got thought the stream is over already, but if they want, they can see the live stream later. Let's get started. Uh, I hope you can see my screen. And please be responsive in the chat, guys, because here there is no voice, so only your chat is like my go to thing. Is the screen visible? Am I visible? And is the voice clear? Can we proceed? Cool. All right. So let's start a little bit. We'll start with a little bit theory. So today the topic is to build an API in Node.js. But if you had a close look at the topic, it's Node.js. It's not Express.js. So what are we going to do today? Initially, I thought it will be a workshop where I'll take small set of people and give make them code, but somehow it blotted in Twitter. So there was so much of registration, so I thought I'll make it as a tutorial than a workshop. So what we'll be doing today is we'll first learn how API works internally, not just calling APIs, but what happens on the network layer and other stuff. On a high level, we'll not go very deep. Then we will just implement a simple API, like a get API and a post API in Node.js, and then we will create our own Express.js. That's the plan for today. First thing, what is Node.js? This is mainly for beginners because I mentioned it's beginner friendly and even for students. So JavaScript is a language, and JavaScript works only in browser. But how it works in browser, we have something called V8 engine. V8 is the JavaScript engine which is in your Google Chrome, and JavaScript works only because of this engine. And in 2009 2010 times, what they did, people, they brought this V8 engine and made it to work in server. So now JavaScript will work also in server, and that's what is called Node.js. Node.js is nothing but JavaScript that's run on server, and it's majorly written in C++ and some parts in JavaScript. But we don't have to know about all those things. You don't even have to know CSS to use Node.js. Cool. That's the brief introduction about Node.js. We'll be using Node.js today to create an API. Now let's come to what is an API. API is more like a communication channel. For example, let's say we have a web page. And what does a web page have? Generally, any web page, it doesn't matter what web page you take, it has only two things. One, it's the UI or the user interface. Two, it's the data. It can be the data which you read or the data which you enter. That depends upon the application. But end of the day, any web application or any mobile application for that fact, it has a user interface and it has a data. That's all it has, right? However, where do you store this data? You store this data in database. You can't store this data in your in memory, right? When you refresh the page, the data will be gone. So you store this data in a place where it's safe and secure, and that is our database. And we can't let people access database directly, right? So that's why we have something called server. And how does the front end or the UI communicates with the server? It communicates through API. So any application has UI and data. The data is stored in database, and this data is needed by the UI. And how will it get the UI? It will talk to the server, and the server will get the data from database and send it back to the UI. And the communication protocol between the front end or the UI and the server is called API. And not necessarily database, sometimes server can also do some calculation and return data. So API is nothing but the interface between the front end and the server to transfer some data from server to the UI. This is API. Now let's go into that. Let's forget about the database part. We will cover data, how database works, how we log databases, race conditions, all those things in future, if this session seems to be useful by attendees. So now let's just focus on the API part. This is the API diagram I drew. So this is the client, and what happens first? Like, don't get confused with the diagram. Just follow with me. The client, what happens first? The client does DNS resolution. What is DNS resolution? So every API is available in a URL. For example, if you want to get the users of, say, for example, Twitter, then you will have a URL called api.twitter.com/get all users. So that will be the path from where you can get your data for the client. That's the path of the API. And the first step of it is the client does DNS resolution. By DNS resolution, it reads the path. So like twitter.com, it reads that and makes sure it's a valid path. If it's not valid, it immediately throws an error. If it is valid, then it gets the IP address of that particular domain. So api.twitter.com will have a IP address. So the client will get the IP address of the domain as the first step. After it gets the first step and IP address, it establishes a connection. And what it does for establishing connection, it does two things. One is TCP handshake. It is more on the network layer. It's more like, okay, I am the right client and I am the right server kind of handshake. Second is SSL handshake. SSL handshake is nothing but this is where security comes in picture. You have this HTTPS protocols, right? Like not HTTP, HTTPS secure protocols. Only when you have HTTPS, this SSL handshake will happen. So these two handshakes make sure this is the correct client, and this client is, I mean, this is an eligible client, and this client is talking to the correct server. To make sure both are the right receiver and sender, we use this two handshakes. TCP is the basic check handshake, and like for availability and all those things, and SSL is a secure handshake. Next is routing. Okay, now my client resolved the DNS, got the IP address, got connected with the server with the IP address, does two handshakes, TCP handshake and SSL handshake. Both handshakes work perfectly. So now my client is like a valid client, my server is like a valid server. What happens next? Now comes the actual API part. Until now, it's more like finding and making sure it's right. Now comes the actual API part. Now the request is passed to the routing of the server. It can differ. It can differ based on the setting of your server. It can be Nginx, or it can be the like Tomcat server or anything. But based on this is common for every technology. It's not just for Node.js. This is the basic flow in an API call. Doesn't matter if it's Java API or Go API or Node.js API. So first part is routing. What routing does is it will forget the base path like api.twitter.com. That will be forgotten because that is used only to get our IP address. But after that we will have a path, right? Slash get users. That is our path, and this path will be received from the request, and this routing thing will decide what to do based on the path. It's like if it's slash get users, routing will send that particular request to the API area where it will receive send back the users. If it's like slash get tweets, then routing will decide, okay, this is slash get tweets, so send that particular request to tweet API. So routing is the place where all this differentiation happens and the requests are being forwarded. Then happens API processing. Now routing decided based on the path where to send, and after the request comes to the right place, now we do the processing. Based on the request path and request parameters and other details we give in request, we make a call to the database, and this database call will give us the actual data. It returns the data, and once we get the data back, we create, okay, the text which got hidden is data. So we get the data back. We just can't send the data simply directly to the user, because there is two process. One is serialization and other is deserialization. What is serialization? So in the when you send a string, or when you send a request to the server, you can't send an object, right? You need to stringify it and send it as a string. That is serialization. However, if a huge object comes as a string, you can't use it as a string itself. Then there's no point in declaring it as an object. So you need to again convert the string into object. That is deserialization. So after the API is processed, the data is now converted into a response. The response will have response code and headers and status code, and then the response body. However, this response body will be stringified because it's again going to be sent over the network. Then once the stringified and all the data is collected, the response is collected and it is sent to the client. After this entire cycle is done, the server will close the connection with the client. If the client have to make another API call, again it have to get the IP, establish a connection, follow the entire protocol. Okay, TCP handshake. Let's see what exactly happens during the handshake. So we have the client, we have the server. The client will first send a packet called synchronize. SYN is like synchronize, and it will send it to server. It's more like, hey server, I am a client and I want to talk to you. It's more like that. What is the use of it? Sometimes the server will be down, right? Then we don't have to make request to the server. If the SYN call will fail, and immediately client will know the server is down, and it will throw error. But if the server is up, it will say, hey client, server will say, okay client, I am okay, I am doing good, I have received your sync. See, this is the sync which as you I received, and this is my acknowledgement. It will send both back. Once client received sync and acknowledgement back, it will verify whether the sync is the sync which it sent. Yes, it's the sync which the client sent, and also it got acknowledgement. Okay, then it will say, okay server, I got your acknowledgement, and send the acknowledgement back. And now server will verify whether it's the same acknowledgement which it sent, and it will make sure, yes, the connection is safe, and then it is talking to the correct client. This way, if somebody meddles the network in the middle and does something different, the acknowledgement will change or synchronization will change, and there will be a mismatch and connection will be terminated. This is what basic TCP handshake. SSL handshake is very similar to this, however, with one difference. Here, any client can access any server, because sync and acknowledgement are just to make sure the client and server are fine. There is no middleman. However, this can be cheated, right? Because a middleman can act as a client as well. A client can be a middleman as well, and a middleman can be a client as well. So this is not secure. How do we make it secure? That's when our HTTPS comes into picture. It has two things. One, the client will have a key, a secret key, and server will have a public key and a certificate. Three things are involved. It works very similar to this. First, the client says hello to server, and if the server is up, the server will say hello to client. Then client will say, see, this is the secret key. Check whether I am the correct client. Then server will get the secret key and see if it's the correct client. If it's the correct client and not a middleman, then it will give back the public key of the server. And after that, server will give the certificate. You would have seen in few websites when you try to log in, Google Chrome will show you a warning message and say the certificate, like the certificate may be invalid, you may be compromised, and all those things, right? That is because it will be a secure connection and the server would not have given a valid certificate. But on a regular website, the certificate will be valid, and after the certificate is valid, it means the connection is secure. There is no middleman for sure. And then the SSL handshake will be done, and everybody will know it's safe. Cool. That's with the theory. Now let's go and start coding. Any questions? Is this process happens for every request, like on every request we establish connection DNS? Yes, for every request, until and unless it's a socket request. I will not touch what is socket right now in this session, but if it's a socket request, the connection will be maintained for some time. Otherwise, the thing will be terminated. The connection will be closed, and for every API request or every HTTP request, the entire process will continue. Before we get to code, is there any question? Just on the theory. If some parts are not very clear, then we'll see it in the group. All right, then let's go to the code. CD desktop, make a directory, node demo, npm init y. I'm just initiating a empty node project, and I will install npm install express and body parser. Just two basic libraries to show you first how a API will work. I'll open the code, zoom in. I think this size should be good. Create a new file, index.js. So right now I'll first write some code and explain to you, but this is on Express. So once you understand how things are working, then we will go and create our own Express. Sorry. Const Express equal to Express const body parser is equal to body parser. Thanks for code pilot. Const app is equal to Express. So I'm just importing Express and importing body parser. What does body parser do? Do you remember when I was explaining the theory, I told something about serialization and deserialization. So body parser, what it does, any request that comes to the server, even if it's an object, it will be serialized into a string, right? And if you want to access it in every request, you need to convert the request object into a object, like using json.parse. And if you have say 1000 APIs, all the 1000 APIs have to do it separately, which is very tiring, right? So body parser is like middleware, which as soon as we get a request, it will interrupt the request get these serialized object, deserialize it, convert it into an object, and put it back into the request. So for the APIs we create, the data is always coming as object. We don't have to care whether it's serialized and sent as a string or not. That is the use of body parser. Now I'll create my app, or for understanding we can even keep it as backend. And first thing I'll say backend dot use body parser dot json. This is because I'm saying if in my request, if the data is serialized, convert it into JSON. Next, I'll say backend dot get slash API, just using the strings. So backend, which we created using Express, then get is our method. We have four methods in API, right? Like get, post, put, and delete. Get is for getting data, post is for writing data, put is for update, and delete is for deleting, just with the name. Now we'll just write a simple get API backend.get, and the path will be slash API. So it doesn't matter what is the prefix is, because prefix is used only for, by prefix I mean the URL, http.twitter.com, http.facebook.com. These things are used only to get the IP and come to the server. Once we are in the server, the routing system will care only about the things after the slash. So I'll say slash API, and then I'll create a function, and this function by default will get my request as first argument, and the response which I will send back as the second argument. I'll simply send hello world, and let me start my project. Node index.js. Oh, sorry. So now I created my backend. I instance of my backend. I used the middleware body parser. I also made sure I have an API slash API which will just return get. Next thing I need to do is I need to start the server, which means backend dot listen. That means I'm telling the server, see, this is where I'm telling my routing system of my server. A routing system, you don't care about other ports, but if something comes into 3000 port, then work. If it's not 3000 port, don't do anything. You just mind your work. Ignore the call. That's what I'm telling the server. So when the port is 3000 and when the path is slash API, this will work. I'll simply log server running in port 3000. Okay. Now let's start our server. Server started running. I'll go to my Postman. So Postman is a tool where you can test your APIs. My path is localhost dot 3000. My method is get, and my path is slash API. Correct? If I send, I'm receiving hello world. So we created a basic API using Express.js. However, this is too basic, right? Like anybody can do it. It's just import Express, create a instance of it, import body parser, and then start creating your APIs using backend.get, backend.put, backend.post, and write some logic inside it. But what happens inside Express? That is the most interesting part of today's chapter. Let's create our custom express.js. First, we will look at this code and decode what are the things we need from Express. First, we need a instance of a server. That is our backend. Then we need use method. Then we need get method. Sorry. Then we need listen method. These are the things we need. And listen is going to start the server in a port. Get is going to create a get API. Use is going to use a middleware. Now let's go and write our express. First thing, we need to create a server. End of the day, Express creates a server. And for creating a server, we don't need any external libraries. We can just create a server using Node itself. Const server equal to HTTP. I need to import HTTP. Const HTTP equal to require HTTP. If you remember, I did not install HTTP because HTTP is just part of the Node.js server itself. It's not an external dependency. And you can create a server using HTTP. Cool, that's it. We created a HTTP server. And what will a server get? It will get a request and send back a response. So we will create a function which will get a request and send back a response. And for now, we will leave it empty. I mean, you can send a response dot end dot hello world, but we are not going to do that. We'll just leave it empty for now. Now let's go and create our my express function. Const custom express equal to a function. What this function is going to do, probably I'll move this server also into my function. Within this function, I created a server. Now I'm going to return what all things I need in my return. I need use, I need get, and I need listen. So first thing I'll create is use. I'll turn off my CodePilot. So how do I turn it off? Cool. In use, I'll do nothing but a function which will get my so uses. We are not going to use only for middlewares. We will also use it for our handlers. So we will just say handler and execute handlers dot push off handler. We'll create a array. So we created an array to hold all our handlers. Use will just put all the handlers in it. And now we'll go and create our get. What will get receive? Go back here. Get will receive two things. One is the path and other is the callback. So path comma callback. This is what get will receive, right? Now we can't start executing get for all the requests. We need to check two things. One, we need to check whether the method is get, and two, we need to check whether the path is equal to, I mean the path in the request is equal to what it is being sent, correct? So we need two things. So we will create a this dot use. We will create a first we'll create the handler, then we'll pass it to this dot use. So in the handler we need request. We need request because that's where we'll get our details, and we need res, and then for now we'll keep it only this two, and we will check if request dot method, method is what tells us whether it's get or put or push, I mean post, and request dot url equal to path. So I'm creating a get method which will get a path and a callback, but I will execute this callback only when my request method is get and request URL is path. So I'm adding a check, and then what I'll do, I'll just do the callback and pass request and response, because what we have here, request and response, we need both request and response for this handler to work. So we'll just pass those two things for the handler. However, we can't execute this directly right now because this has to be executed when request comes in. For that case, we what we will do, we will do this dot use. We are not going to execute it right now. We are just going to uh, oh sorry, I put it in the wrong place. This dot use, and we will pass the entire handler. So right now this handler will be part of execute handlers, right? Next thing we'll do is we will create the default request and response objects. Const default request equal to, this will be our input request. So input request const url equal to url dot parse. A url is a method in node, and what we will pass here, from input request dot url and true. So what this thing will do, um, parsed url to differentiate. So what this thing will do, URL will do, it will take the entire path, http.twitter.com slash API slash get users. It will take the entire path and it will split it into path name, query, params. So it will just take the entire string and split it into meaningful words. That's what we need. What we are going to do? Return method we are not going to change, so it will be input request dot method. URL again will not change, it's parsed URL dot path name, because we don't have to worry about the entire URL, right? We just need the basic URL, that is http.twitter.com, which is which comes under path name. Then we need our query. Query is nothing but our parameters we pass. You might have seen in few URLs, right? So http.twitter.com slash user question mark user ID equal to and some number. You would have seen such URLs. Here this user ID is our query params. Parsed URL dot query. Then we will have our headers. What are headers? Headers are the extra information which we pass from the client to the server for all requests. It's like examples of headers can be user agent. User agent is what tells the server from which device this API call is made. So user agent will tell whether it's a laptop or a mobile, it's iOS or Android. It tells all those things. Your authorization token or secret token with which you are authorized, those things comes in header. And I don't think we need to modify anything in the header, so I'll just put this headers inside. And now comes the important part. On, that means we have something called, so this is a inbuilt method of node.js, right? We have something called request.on. See, that's autocomplete, and it has multiple values. It can be on close, on so on data, when data comes, on end, on error, on pass. So when request comes in, it has multiple event cycle. I just want to do something on event. What I want to do, I will get the event, and I'll also have callback, and I want to do this on my input requests event and callback. What am I doing here? I'm just creating an abstract over it. So whoever uses my default request, they can call something called on, and they can pass a event and the callback, and this event and callback will be forwarded to my input request, which is coming from my user. I'll tell you why we need this in a short while. We'll also go ahead and create our um, default response. Again, we will get our input response. And what we will do, response is very simple. We don't have to do multiple things. We just need to send the basic response. Status code. By default, we will keep it 200. But if we want, we can override it in the um, handler in the index.js file. 200 is success. Headers, I'll just keep it empty. You can pass headers, but we don't have a need for it. And we have a method called response.end. If you see here, I have response.end. So I'll create a end method. And what it does, it gets a content or text. And what we do, input response dot end, we will pass the text. That's it. Now we created our default request and response. Let's go back to our server which we created. Const request is equal to default request of request. We are just getting the user's request and adding or keeping few data as such, and few data we are adding or modifying, and few functions we are writing a wrapper around it. That's as much as we are doing here, nothing else. So default response of res. So now server is our entry point. When user calls this particular endpoint, particular server, this is hit, and the request and response are sent to these functions and modified and got here. Next thing we need to do is execute our handlers. If you see here, we have all the handlers. When we use, all the handlers are being pushed to this array called execute handlers, correct? And if you go back here and see, even body parser we are using dot use to create. Even body parser we are using dot use to create. We will create a custom body parser as well. So what body parser basically does? Body parser js. Const body parser. I'll remove this JSON to avoid confusion. I mean, you can do it. You can return body parser as an object which has a JSON function and create the function which I'm going to build right now. But that will not be required, right? Like that is unnecessary. You might not need that at this point. So what I'll do, I'll just keep it simple and just create a const body parser. Just a minute. I forgot to fetch water before the session and I'm thirsty now. What am I going to return? If you see in my custom express, what am I passing to? Okay, I'll come to that later. So what are the things I will need uh, in the body person? I'll need the request and response. Response is optional. I wouldn't need a response as such. So probably I'll just keep it simple for now. In body parser, I just need my request. Correct? Now let me create something called let data equal to empty string, and then request dot on. You remember we created a method and it supports data. So when I get data, that is whenever a request comes and if the request has data, uh, request data can be added to data plus equal to request data. So whenever I get data, of course we know it is serialized and it's a string, and we can add string to data like this, right? So or to avoid confusion, I can even do like this: data plus request data. So there is already a string, and I'm adding the new string which I get to this string. So whenever there is new data, this request will keep on adding it to the variable called data. Next, once the request is finished, that is on request end, that means now I have my entire data. I don't need to wait for the request to complete anymore. It is over and I have my entire data. What I'll do, I'll just do request dot body, which will have, currently it is having my serialized data. Correct? I'll just do JSON dot parse. I'm deserializing the data I collected and I'm putting it into request dot body. Catch error request dot body can be empty object. I'll also log maybe error in parsing data. That's it. Now I have my custom body parser. Module dot exports equal to body parser, and here instead of importing it from body parser, I will import it from my local file body parser, and there is no dot json notation. I removed it. That's it. Now I have my body parser, and this body parser is part of my use method. So this is in execute handlers, and I also use my use method in my get. So my get is also in my execute handlers. So whenever the server is called, this is being the request and response are being formed. We need to start executing, but we don't know what to execute, right? So technically, we execute everything. That is why we have this checks here. How do we execute it? We will create a function const execute handlers. And what will this particular function receive? It will just receive request and response, nothing else. Oh, did I create it already? Oh, okay. Execute handler function. Okay. So execute handler function, and I'm passing my request, that is my default request and default response. That's it. And here I'm going to do a tricky thing. What am I going to do here exactly? So if you see in my return object, where is my return object? I have use, I have get, and I'm missing one major thing, that is my listen. To listen, I'll pass my port and a callback, correct? But listen don't have to wait for execution, it can directly get executed. So I'll use my server object which we created here, and this inbuilt has a listen function, and I'll just forward it here, port dot callback. Now I have my listen function get and use. But if you see right now it may look simple, but later I can have a post, I can have a put, I can have a delete. So it might get complicated, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just, this function will not take many complexity. All it will do is it will just execute one by one. So I'll keep const index as 0 because all my handlers are put in into this array, and right now I'm going to iterate through that array. How am I going to do it? I'm going to do it in like I'm going to create a function called const next equal to a function. What this next is going to do, if index greater than or equal to execute handlers dot length, then I'll just return. That means my entire execution, I'm starting my execution in my server, and I'm iterating, or I'm going to iterate one by one into the handlers. But if the index is greater than or equal to the length, it means I have completed the entire array, so I'm returning. It's more like a recursion. If it's not greater than the length, then I'll take my handler. What is the name? Execute handlers of index. I'll take one particular handler, and if handler is not null, just checking, then what I'll do, I'll just call handler and pass request, response, and next, because this have to be a recursion. And I'll just start the recursion here. So it will come here, it will take the array of handlers, execute the handler one by one, and then within the handler we need to do something. What we need to do, we need to forward it. That is, right now I'm just passing the next. This next can be executed only from within the handler because I'm just starting the next execution only once. So within the handler, this is my handler, I will have next execute. Where will I get next from? From here. Similarly, my JSON parser is also a handler, but I'm getting only request. I'm only using request right now, so I'll not use response. I'm putting an underscore so I don't use it, and then I'll get next here, and I'll execute my next here. This way, it doesn't matter how many we create. I may create a post now, post, and then even within post I can say this dot use of, I can pass a function, and I can call next here. What's the benefit? It will execute all the possible methods. So when I get a request, initially it will go to get, it will go to post, it will go to put. Only if the method and the URL matches, it will execute the callback. But even if it doesn't match, it will get execute the next. That means it will go to the next method. Use, get, and put. I think we are done with the thing. I'll know it only when I run it. So let's export. Module.exports is equal to custom express. Custom express. I think it should work. Let's see. Nodemon. I'm using Nodemon so I can debug. Okay, something is missing. This dot use is not a function. Why? What am I missing? Hmm. Damn. Okay, guys, this is the egg and shell problem. Like if you use arrow function, you need to bind. Uh, I'm not sure how many people used old versions of React, but in old versions, you need to bind it. So only if you bind, this will work. Since I did not bind, see now server is running. And let's try. No, something wrong. What's wrong? Let's debug. So when I hit the request, server is running, not a problem because listen is very straightforward. Port and callback, server dot listen, port callback. So its server is running perfectly. And then when I click hit slash API, backend dot get slash API, it goes to the get method. It creates a callback which will check whether the method is get, URL is path, and if it's there, it will execute the callback. What does the callback does? Send my response. All right, and this is being pushed to this dot use. Let's add some console logs and see how the data is flowing. First, it will come here to this callback. Log entering get block. Then log satisfy get method. However, before coming entering get block, it will go into the first handler. What is our first handler? Our first handler is body parser. So we'll also check body parser. I think I know it. Log body parser with data. Okay, I know it. I know what's the issue. Now let's see whether it's going. Uh, Wait, let me check if it's coming to body parser. Oh, may pass. Damn, I did not execute body parser. Hmm. Okay, again. No. Something is missing. Server is running at port 3000. Okay. What's happening here? Return on event callback. Event callback. Where is my body parser? On event callback. Let's not return anything. No, 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 no. It's breaking here. Shouldn't break. Hmm. Okay, I'll just comment this for now for debugging. Let's see. Request.on is not a function. Cool. That's how it should work. Request.on is not a function. Yeah. Cool. Then what's wrong? If I create a function, request.on, and mhm. Damn, this is the problem with Node.js. It's not very easy to debug. Why is maximum call size exceeded? I'm missing something somewhere. Okay, let's see how many times this particular thing is being called. On data. Data. No, it's not even coming into it. Okay, let's not spend more time on it. I'll debug it later. So for now, I'll not use body parser, because if I don't use body parser, I don't need this on method. I need it only for converting it there. So now if I check, maybe it will work. Cool, it worked. Amazing. Satisfy get method. Something is going in infinite loop, but probably it's the same thing. Index greater than or equal to return. Okay, good. Otherwise, execute the handler. Next is being passed here. Ah, ha, ha, ha. Cool. I found the issue. It's nothing but I'm not incrementing the index. So I'll keep on executing only the first thing infinitely. Damn. I think it should work now. Even the body parser. Let's check. Hmm, okay. No. No. It's not working. But why is it going in infinite loop? It should it should come here. Execute handler function. I'm calling it only for once per response. It is coming here. Index is 0. Um, after index is being 0. Maybe it is going in post. Shit. Shit. Block level scopes. Cool. Now it's working. I think it should body parser also should work. Awesome. Error in parsing data. Why it is error? Okay, I know why error is in parsing data, because we don't have data. Where are we getting the data from? We are getting the data from the request. But in the request, we are not sending any data. So we can maybe add data. Data test. Now if we send, you see, body parser with data. I don't have error now. Awesome. Successfully, we created our Express framework, a minimalist Express framework. If we want, we can even add now a post. Post, what it will get? A path, callback, this dot use of, another callback, request, comma, response, comma, next. Wait, before I do something in post, I'll just make sure, I'll show you people that post is not working currently. Then we will get it working. Post of slash return data. What we are going to do, we are just going to return the data, whatever we are getting. Request, comma, response, const data equal to json dot parse of request dot body, response dot end of json dot, we need to serialize it again. I'll pass like data received is data. So this is my thing, but already you see the error is saying backend post is not a function. So we'll go and create our backend post. Now it's a function, but it will crash because nothing will happen. Oh, this is get, right? So I'll send post. See, infinite, because only it's going up to body parser. Here we do nothing. We are not even passing it next. So now what we will do, we'll create a handler for post. We have the next, we will execute next, because irrespective of whether it's post or not, next should be executed. Then we will check if request dot method equal to post and request dot url equal to path. If yes, we will execute the callback with request and response. All right, what is the path here? Slash return data. So I'll do it slash return data. Now we should get this in our response. Something wrong. We'll fix it. No worries. Unexpected token u in JSON 0. Where? Request.body. Okay, I'm sending it as text. Now I should get no. What am I missing? Let's console log the request. Method post, yes. URL return data, yes. I'm sending it in query. Where is body? Let's go to our body parser and check. Did we get this? Get it here? No. Why? Let's print query and see. Probably we are sending it in query. JSON.stringify of query. No, even query is an empty object. Not there. This looks fine, but why is it not working? Return data is the path. That should be fine. Did we miss something here? This dot use request next request dot method post request dot URL. Those things just work fine. I think I know why. If next, because post will be the last thing, so there could not be any next. No. Anything wrong with the response? No, nothing seems wrong as such. Something is missing in the body. Or I'm sending something wrong. Body raw beautify. I think I found the issue. Let's check. No. Where is this in the request? We'll print the request here and see if we are getting this. Log JSON dot stringify of request initial request. App crash, that's okay. Okay, let's just print it. This is my initial request, but where is my object going? I think I'm missing something here. Am I hitting the right localhost slash return data? Yes. Params test JSON. Okay, let me try one thing in the browser. Slash return hyphen data. Error failed. It's running in that path, right? Is there any typo? It's not hitting it. Hmm. But let's see if it's coming. It is coming here. So definitely it should work. But this is not getting executed. No, I think I'm doing something wrong in the way I send the data. Okay, let's add like very detailed console logs. Definitely, it's not coming in. Request.body is not getting the data. What I mean, request.body. It's right. Let me copy paste. No, it's not entering this blocks. Wait. Now let's see what is the order. Damn, did it work? No. Oh, now it's taking body person data. What is this? First is the body parser thing. Next is get. Next is post. I mean, not returning somewhere. Hmm. It's weird. Now the data is working fine. Damn, what's wrong? I did not make any code changes. I just removed few console logs and Mhm. It's not coming here. It's going until body parser with data. Then it is failing. Let's see here. It is being set here. Then calling next. Ah, interesting. Hmm. Okay. What a silly thing I have done. Should work now. No. Is no one having some cache issues? Okay, it's going to next. By next, it means what is the next one, which is get. It comes here, checks if this is valid. Mm, if it's get, if it's path, handler, if next. Get. Okay, it's coming until here. Good. Then I need to verify if request dot method, what is it? Damn. I didn't change it here to post. Shit. Okay, now I get another error, which is fine, I believe. I think now it's okay, maybe. Post. Good. I still don't see my body. Oh, yeah, it's good. It's good. So now I have everything I need in my request. Going here, I'll check. Okay, no, I'll check that directly. Mm-hmm. Is it coming to the callback? Calling CB, inside CB, body. Calling CB, body, good. Then what are we missing? Body is a string, so data send. JSON parse is where we are facing the issue. Why JSON parse is having an issue? Okay, let's do one thing. Awesome, we got it. Something wrong with the way I was sending the data, so it was just spoiling everything. I think it's working fine now. And finally, we have our own express and own body parser built. Oh, it took longer than expected. I think. No, it's not with. Yeah, TypeScript to the rescue, but I didn't. Mm, Cool. Any questions now, guys? No, it's not with how we are passing the param. I think it's more with how I was passing the data, and I think Nodeman had a cache issue in the middle, and that's where I got lost. But yeah, finally we made it. Um, any questions? Oh, six people are still staying. Okay. If not any questions, then I'll give like one more minute if you have any questions. Otherwise, we'll call it a day. Yeah, Sagar, there is a lot of boilerplate with raw node, but nobody writes code in raw node, right? It's more for your understanding on what happens internally. It's not for using it in production. So whatever I did, exactly the same thing is happening in node internally, but a lot more abstraction is still there. Like they consider a lot more, like they have separate things for user agents, and they have more abstractions. But at the base, whatever I did right now for past 1.5 hours, that's what entirely is in Express. Cool. um yeah, then if nobody's having any more questions, then we'll call it a day. Have a good day and bye bye.